on this episode of On the Mic with Mike and Moose.
But Joe Rogan recently has been professing Christ. He's going to church. And it's awesome to see how God has turned that around. And you're seeing people like Joe Rogan, you're seeing people like Jelly Roll. And before you say, well, you support Jelly Roll, I see God doing the work on him. We have to watch ourselves to not discount what the work God's doing.
What's up, everybody? It's your boy Moose coming from straight out of Alabama, right outside of Birmingham, Alabama. Joined here today by
Mike, all the way from Moore, you know it, the tornado capital of the world.
so. This is episode number 3. We're talking more about our faith and family, and this episode is called, of course, called Faith, Family, and Football. What else? What better way to do it?
Gators.
For me, being from Alabama and him living in Oklahoma, I mean that's two of the biggest, traditions in college football. Both states not having a professional football team. But today we want to talk a little bit about our priorities and how things change throughout the course of our lives. Mike and I are actually really close in age. I think there's a couple years difference. I think I'm actually Jody's age. I think Jody and I are the same age because
Born
I
in 80,
was born in '81.
81. Yep. She's got you by 1 year, but still,
Okay,
so close.
so we're close in age. So a lot of our experiences are going to be very similar, but um, I mentioned a time in my life where I was not a Christian. I mean, there's no other way to put it. I mean, there was a class I took my it was either my junior or senior year in college called critical decision making, and my teacher. I mean, I think there was some good information in there,
Oh, yeah.
but my teacher flat out came out one day and said, "I'm just an agnostic." And I stayed with afterwards and I talked to him about it. And I got to thinking, maybe I am too. And so that was kind of my downward spiral. That's like 2003 or something like that. And at that point, I was in the height of my college career. I was a 3-year starter playing football in high school. I was starting off as being a high school football official. I was a student, so I had season tickets to Alabama football games. And it took a long time for me to get out of that paradigm that the number one thing in my life was football.
Yeah.
And I still love football to this day. But the way that as we get older and our priorities change or our thought processes change, that to me is just as important as what we used to think. And so I know, Mike, you and I were just talking about it off air about a particular person that we've seen in this a celebrity and how they've kind of changed. I didn't know if you had some insight on that. So
Yeah. Joe Rogan. What's funny about that? I get called Joe Rogan a lot now on TikTok. They say, "It's the Christian Joe Rogan." I'm like, um, I will go to the bank account. No, I'm just kidding. But Joe Rogan recently has been professing Christ. He's going to church. And it's awesome to see how God has turned that around. And you're seeing people like Joe Rogan, you're seeing people like Jelly Roll. And before you say, well, you support Jelly Roll, I see God doing the work on him. We have to watch ourselves to not discount what the work God's doing. They might not be perfect like you are, but God's working on them. But no, it's that we're seeing that in Joe Rogan. We're seeing that in a Jelly Roll, Jordan Peterson. We're seeing God work on Jordan Peterson, one of the great philosophers of our time, and we're seeing God work, and how that happens is they're like we're talking about tonight. Uh, those priorities are basically switched around, and you're seeing that happen even on the national stage with people like that.
but
And
yeah, I mean, I'm not going to. So for me, in the Bible, specifically the New Testament for sure, but I would say for me in the Bible, the second most important person after Jesus Christ is Saint Paul. Is Paul.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, that's just that's my personal belief, and I think about how Paul was when he was still called Saul before his walk to Damascus and he
Yeah.
was blinded, and just kind of the turnaround he says. And I'm not saying that Joe Rogan's Paul, but Joe Rogan was known for, you know, essentially blaspheming God on his podcast.
Openly.
And so now you look and see what he's talking about. I mean, he would bring on people that were Christians that were, almost scholars, and he was like giving them the nth degree.
Oh yeah, every time.
And now he's professing faith. It's amazing how our paradigm changes.
Yeah. And when those things happen, you know it's a God thing. And what we have to remember too, when we're talking about Saul, who became Paul, of course, we talked about this not Sunday night, Wednesday night at our church. Galatians chapter 2 breaks it down. Do you know that Paul did not go to the Jerusalem Council until 14 years after all that? 14 years. And so he didn't have to go face the very people he was persecuting in a way until 14 years later. And even then they were like, oh, here's Paul or here's Saul. You got to think about that. When he walked in there, they were like, well, here's the guy that was trying to take us out. I think it's the same way with Joe Rogan, Jelly Roll, Jordan Peterson. Here's another one, Russell Brand.
Oh yeah, yeah.
He was a big blasphemer. I mean, he would make so much fun. He was over there with Ricky Gervais. Him and Ricky were kind of on the same page, doing the same thing. But God has, I would say, out of all those, Russell Brand has been one of those.
He dove in
180. I mean, completely,
Yeah.
because he was the exact opposite.
Mhm.
Exact opposite. Now, I mean, he's going completely for Jesus the whole way.
Yeah, that's that. I mean, you talk about somebody that dove in head first. Because I've been following him on social media for some time now, and at first you kind of it's just like Jelly Roll. You kind of say, is he really doing this, or what's going on? But then, as you keep seeing that pattern, nothing's changing. The message is the same. You just kind of sit there and say, wow. And, the same thing with like Jelly Roll. Brandon Lake is touring with him.
Discipling.
Yeah. I mean, come on now.
Yeah.
Tell me that's not a God thing.
And for Sister Susie that's writing a comment right now down there in our YouTube, I want you to know before you say it, God saved you. God showed grace towards you. And we're not trying to down you, but I know you're getting mad about us talking about all these people. Show some grace. And before everybody comes after us with that, it's not that we're saying they're super saints, but can I tell you something? None of us are. None of us are Jesus. None of us ever will be. And so when we feel like that we've arrived, that's when we need to hit our knees again and say, God, humble me.
I mean, what does this say in the book of Romans? For all have sinned and come short of the glory of God.
That's right. Every single time.
All have sinned. Not some have sinned. I've seen some people out there saying once you become a Christian, you're not a sinner anymore. That's caca. I mean, that's not.
And I love this too. The very famous scripture, he who knew no sin became sin so that we may become the righteousness of God in him, that our righteousness is not our own, that he is our righteousness. And we thank God for that, because our righteousness, what does it say, Moose? It comparatively is that of a filthy rag.
Right.
And that's our best day. That's our holy day. And if that's the case, we have no right to judge. I love the people that say, well, we don't judge, but we're called to be fruit inspectors. It doesn't say that in the Bible either. It says that we will see their fruit, right? But it never tells us to go treat them like a cantaloupe and, thump them on top of their head to see if they're holy or not.
Right.
You just have to step back and pray for them. Now, are we to hold each other accountable?
Oh yeah.
Very godly.
If you see behaviors that are unbecoming, it's not hard. It's not bad to point it out. I mean,
but judgment, there's a difference in both of them. Because here's the deal. Jesus, what does it say in John 3:17? For God sent his son into the world not to condemn the world, but
Save it. Yeah.
save them. And so we have to remember that God doesn't even condemn them in the way that we think about that, Moose. Think about that, anybody out there, that God's not condemning people like we condemn them.
Right.
The one
Uh,
that has every right to do it. Like when Jesus saw the woman that was caught in adultery, he said to her, he says, your accusers are no longer here. They have nothing to accuse you of. And I have nothing either. The one person that could have threw a stone at her was Jesus because he was without sin.
right.
But he said, they're gone. And
Mhm.
so even Jesus could have brought wrath down upon her. Now, there is coming a day, because we read Revelation, that there will be wrath.
Mhm.
And we know that there is going to be judgment. But right now, in this grace period, we're able to walk in that peace, knowing that He is our righteousness. Now, that does not give us the permission to just live any which way we want to. We do not believe in antinomianism. We do not believe in lawlessness.
Mhm.
We believe that God does transform us, right? But it's Him that does it. It's not us. So,
Right. So so getting back kind of the topic we had for this podcast, this episode, I'm talking about faith, family, and football. You know,
yes,
the football itself, that's an interchangeable word. It could be
yes,
faith, family, and TV, faith, family, and gambling, faith, family, and alcohol, whatever. Just kind of what our priorities we usually put before God.
yes, sir.
And even to this day, I feel so. I'm gonna tell you, my life changed when I started my meeting in my discipleship group. That's when I realized that I was like, and we're going to talk about this in a future episode. At the time, I was umpire in travel baseball.
Yeah.
Travel baseball was 6 games on Saturday, six or 7 games on Sunday, and we're talking getting there at 8 a.m. and stay until 8 p.m., 9 p.m. both days. And I was going through some financial issues, so I felt like I needed the money. But once I started meeting with this discipleship group, I was like, you know what? I'm going to let God. I'm going to put God first. And so um, I think that but even though I've done that, that doesn't mean that I still don't struggle with it.
Oh, yeah.
You know, last year we had some issues at work, and I made a phone call, to one of the most godly women that I know. And it was the best decision I ever made because you know what? I said, you know what? It's time for me to figure out what's going wrong. And am I doing something wrong? And even though it wasn't told to me what I was doing wrong, the conversation completely, like, it was Jesus coming in and flipping the tables on me. And the last 8 months, man, my job it had been gravy, but man, it's been so much easier. This time last year, I was in such, I was so anxious,
Yeah.
and even after being in a better position the last 8 years or so with my faith, I realized that I was not putting my faith forward like I should. And this time it wasn't football. It was whatever, it was whatever. Like, I couldn't tell you what it is, but it was just whatever I was doing was putting my faith in the back seat. And can you imagine if somebody like Paul would have done that? Oh, I'm just going to take this particular missionary journey off. I'm not going to go to Corinth, or I'm not going to go to Rome. Because I'm just tired. And I gotta understand. I'll sleep for the next couple of years. Go home to Tarsus and sleep for the next couple of years.
But God, and I think we all look at our priorities. I'm not going to lie that when I began doing a lot of the TikTok stuff, um, I was spending so much time preparation wise that it was messing with my faith and my family.
Mhm.
Because I was doing it for all the right reasons, Moose. You hear me? I was doing it for the
Yeah.
right reasons, bro. I was
Yeah.
doing it, but I noticed that I was spending too much time away from my family. So
Right.
I had to put a balance in and a rule that if Jody ever says not tonight, Mike, I say okay, you know. And so it's that type of thing. And I love football too, but my football team hasn't won anything since 2009. So go Gators, by the way. And they
Actually, it was 2008.
okay, listen, the championship was in 2009. So
They won the game in 2009, but it was the
Yeah.
2008 season.
because 2009, in that November of that year, you made Tim Tebow cry. And I
Yes.
still hold that against every single one of you Alabama fans because boy cried. My boy
Well,
cried.
Tim Tebow made me cry in 2006 when he actually chose Florida over Alabama.
Oh,
So,
yeah. Yeah, but with that, I love football and I loved I'm a you know, I'm kind of torn. I was raised a Cubbies fan, then I became a Braves fan. I kind of like both, but you really can't, but in my heart it's kind of divided. But I've loved sports, man. I used to be the one that would listen to Mike and Mike in the morning, Kylie and Boom in the afternoon, Jim Rome. I used to be consumed by it, and I used to love all that kind of stuff. And I had to watch myself because
mhm.
I, I'm a I'm an extremeness. If we're honest, when I do something, I do it all out, and and so I've had to watch that in my faith walk too. That I've done things to extreme.
Yeah.
I've even done it with my faith in the wrong type of way, where I made myself feel bad for not reading 3 chapters in Scripture, which Jesus never told us that we had to. But I held an unchecked expectation over myself that that was something I had to do, and that was messed up, and that was even taking me away from meditating and praying the right way I was supposed to. So I had healthy and unhealthy versions of that.
Right. And so, just going back to the actual name of this episode, faith, family, and football. I feel that faith should be number one priority.
Yes.
Family should be your number two priority, and then everything else, whether it's football or travel ball or trivia or whatever you do, karaoke, whatever you do on this, it's just this kind of the tangent from what you should be doing. That's what comes after that.
And I
Which
would even say this, Moose, with the faith part, that's that walk with Jesus. And
mhm,
that's not ministry. It's your faith with Jesus, your family, then church. And that's even me as a pastor. I've told my people, even though I'm hired to be your pastor, even though you called me to be your pastor, it's my walk with Jesus, it's my family, and then it's the church.
right.
We cannot intertwine faith and church together.
Mhm.
Because we do, that's a very, very deadly combination.
There has to be delineation.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. We have to
well, look, I think we're coming up on time here. Just want to say thanks. I think it was this is a great conversation.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think so far this has been our best conversation we've had. So,
Yeah, good. Yeah, we're getting into this. We're learning how to do this, man.
yeah. So we've already got a nice little schedule coming up. But you're going to see here in a few minutes some links to our Discord. The Discord is called Rooted. We have hundreds of people in this Discord server. There's different ways that people could connect, whether it's prayer or asking questions about faith, and other aspects of just your walk with God. Essentially, that faith part. There's going to be links to our. And as far as the YouTube goes, please like and subscribe, share this out. There's going to be links to our TikTok, both personal for both me and Mike. There's going to be our page for Instagram and Facebook for this show. And if you have any questions or want to present us any questions for a future episode, or you have some suggestions for a topic we could cover, send us an email. The email is mikeandmoose2025@gmail.com. And so I think this, like I said, I think this is a great topic. Looking forward to doing more in the future. And you got anything else, Mike?
Yes, if you're going to send an email, you got to send cookies too. And we'll send you that address to where you send that. It's very imperative because we will not look at the email unless there's cookies. No, I'm just kidding. No,
I was gonna say you can eat the cookies because my GLP-1 will not allow me to do it.
Listen, my GLP-1 is GLP-1ing right now as we speak. Both on GLP-1s. I've lost right at 180 pounds. Moose is losing that weight too. And bro, my neck would have been out to here back in the day.
Mhm.
But tonight, yeah. So the GLP, yeah, we can't eat the cookies, but we say thank you. But this is what I would say: keep your faith real. Talk to Jesus Christ like He's right there because He is. And remember your Father, God, Abba Father, that He's your dad. So understand this: when you go to Him, talk to Him like He's a dad, and yeah, treat Him like He's God, of course. But you're able to have that conversation. So just go talk to Him.
And as always, I just want to let everybody know I'm praying for you.